Before we get going, just a note to say some of the details in this episode depict graphic descriptions of injuries. It might be difficult for some listeners. Without further ado, we'll get started.
Lying in the dark in a cut block with a cougar that keeps coming back trying to get you or get somebody else is really just like a nightmare situation. 75% of my skull was degloved, so they had to reattach muscles and skin. Half of my face was drooped down. There were rocks, there were dirt, there was everything underneath the layers of skin that were flopping around. Without stars there, like the risk of infection really increases because cougars don't brush their teeth. They don't have clean saliva. Luckily, there were no broken bones and the cougar's teeth hadn't penetrated through the skull. So really it was a best case scenario of what could happen.
From Stars Air Ambulance, this is Mission Ready, presented by WBM Technologies. Welcome to Mission Ready. This is episode 4 of a deep dive into a mission by STARS. We're a non-profit healthcare organization that provides pre-hospital critical care from 6 bases throughout Western Canada. I'm Deborah Tetley.
And I'm Lyle Aspinall. So far in this story, we've heard about Marcia Burkett being attacked by a cougar in a remote mountainous cut block, how the co-workers she was with pulled together to help her out, and how STARS soon flew to her aid.
Today, we take you to the Queen Elizabeth II Hospital in Grand Prairie, Marcy's first stop after being flown by STARS and cared for along the way by our medical team.
Like, as the cougar was attacking me, I was reliving my entire life. Like, every little pertinent piece of information was just being pulled, and then I would know how to use it in that situation. Everything I'd learned about cougars or bears or first aid. But at some point, the adrenaline wears off, and then the pain was just excruciating.
Now we'd like you to meet Marla Tabler, who was a friend to Marcy and her husband Josh Brewster, a STARS pilot we met previously in this story. Marla is also a nurse for STARS at our Edmonton base. The three of them were close in Grand Prairie when this happened in 2014 and have remained so in the ensuing years.
From the moment Marla heard about the attack, she offered support to the couple. She acted as an advocate for Marcy, and as you will hear, did much more to help out that night in the hospital and in the days that followed.
By the way, you won't believe how Marcy and Josh honored Marla for her efforts, but more on that in the next episode when we explore the impact of these missions on mental health and wellness.
When the helicopter and crew touched down at the Queen Elizabeth II Hospital in Grand Prairie, Marla and Josh, who at the time was Marcy's boyfriend, were waiting in silence on the helipad.
What their ETA was, so we knew approximately when to expect the helicopter. So we were just sitting there waiting, saw the helicopter land, and then watched them unload her, and we were right there as she came by. So we helped, bring the stretcher in and take her into emerge.
And what was the mood like up there?
It's so different than any other call I've been involved in, because I think I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and I have some friends who are volunteer firefighters, and they always are so gracious to us. They just think that STARS is amazing, and I always turn it back on them. And I think, you guys, we come in and it's so easy for us to be detached because we don't know the people that we're transporting on a day-to-day basis. So we come into these communities, they're not our neighbors, they're not relatives. So we're often able to be quite detached because there's not that emotional aspect. This was a totally different story. So it was very quiet because we didn't know. And Josh knows, I know how bad these calls can be. So that we didn't say a lot. We just kind of stood there and waited because we didn't know what to expect. But it was definitely a different feeling. It was very anxious, very much more emotional than any other call I'd ever been involved in, for sure.
So then you see your colleagues wheeling your friend by you, and then what do you do next?
Mm-hmm. It was hard to tell how bad it was. Obviously, they had her bandaged up, but she was able to speak. So I think that was a huge relief for both of us immediately. I think she asked where Josh was, and Josh is so stoic. I think that was even more hard for me to kind of be in, because he's very stoic and he's very calm. And he was still very calm and very stoic, but you could just see, knowing him, I knew how upset he was and obviously how concerned he was. So it was just hard to watch.
STARS nurse Kelly Holt agreed.
I remember Link Center saying that Josh was going to be meeting us at the hospital, and he was right there. He was like right at the landing pad, and he walked up to the hospital with us. It was good to see him, and he was so frightened, and just the look, like, I mean, when you know somebody, just the look on his face. And he met us and walked up to the hospital, and right beside Marcy, and yeah, Marla was there, because Josh and Marla and Marcy are really good friends. So it was nice to have her there too, reassuring Marcy as well.
And did you stay for a while, or you had to get back, I guess, to get the helicopter ready for your next mission?
Yeah, I knew she was in good hands with Marla and Josh, and we knew she was stable, and they still had some diagnostics to do with her. Like, they were worried about skull fractures and stuff like that. So I knew they were going to have to be doing some other tests and stuff, and sewing her and stapling her and all the things they needed to do. But yeah, so I never got to see her until the next day.
Marcy was taken straight to emergency, and Marla went with her. When she wasn't working at STARS, Marla worked as a nurse at the hospital and was familiar with all the staff there. She was there in the trauma room when the doctor assessed Marcy.
She knew going in she would be Marcy's voice.
I just tried to be an advocate for her. I'm sure the doctors were ready for me to get out of that room by the end of it, because I was constantly like, oh, she needs something more for pain. Oh, she needs more lidocaine. Oh, we need to do this. Oh, can I get her this? And so, I mean, that's my role as a friend and as a nurse, is always to be a patient advocate. So I'm sure he was very happy by the time I left. But my job, as far as I was concerned, was to make sure Marcy was as comfortable as possible, and to just kind of be an advocate for both her and Josh.
Being Marcy's advocate was the easy job. Managing her injuries wasn't as easy.
I think there was some reassurance because she was talking to us, and that's always our first concern: airway, breathing, circulation. She's talking to us. Her vitals looked okay. Her GCS was good. She was alert and oriented. She could tell us what had happened. So that part was all a relief, obviously. And then as we started taking the dressings off that they had put on, I realized how severe her injuries were. And it was hard, right? You're trying to figure out, does she belong in Grand Prairie? Should she be going to Edmonton to see the specialists? And just realizing how significant her facial injuries were was hard to see.
Just a note, the next half minute includes a description of an injury that may be difficult for some listeners. To skip past it, jump ahead to the 8-minute, 33-second mark.
And I remember at one point, Marcy, she said, I think my forehead must be really swollen, hey? And I looked at her and I was like, yeah, it's pretty swollen. But what had actually happened was, because her injuries were so severe, she was basically scalped. And so what she thought was swelling over her eyes was actually her forehead falling down over her eyelids, so she couldn't see it. So I would kind of hold her forehead up a little bit. I was like, is that better? She's like, oh yeah, that is better. So I think there was an element of protection too, not telling her exactly how bad it was. She hadn't seen herself. We weren't going to show her at that time. So just trying to be there for them in any way that I could be was kind of my role, whether it was friend or, determined nurse or whatever you want to call me. I just wanted to make sure that it went as smoothly and her outcome was as good as it possibly could be. So that was my role there.
Marla was there for emotional support and to help with the dozens of sutures that Marcy needed. But she also found herself tending to tasks that she had never experienced before.
And then I actually, I remember picking cougar hair off of her and getting, we have specimen jars, and getting it because I had heard, or I don't know if I knew this for some reason, but I knew that they could do DNA testing to see which cat it was. So I picked a bunch of cougar hair out of her wounds and off of her and put them in specimen jars and kept them for the guys that came later to collect it.
We asked Marcy about that. She said DNA testing determined it was a male cougar, but to her knowledge, officials were never able to track it down or match it with any other problem cougars reported since then. She said officials also analyzed the size of the paw prints and the tooth indentations in her skull and were able to determine it was likely an older animal.
How incredibly surreal that must have been to, not only is this a cougar attack, which, like you say, you don't see all that often, but it's also your friend, and you're just right there picking cougar hairs out of her. What a surreal moment that must have been.
It really was. It was a bizarre night.
Mission Ready will be right back.
I'm Summer Hashem, Director of Technology at STARS. We absolutely enjoy working with WBM Technologies. They have a well-established process for client engagement, which really drives innovation and project success. As a technology partner, they understand our needs and goals and work to design effective solutions that are right for us. Like WBM, STARS has deep roots in the communities we serve across Western Canada. You could say we have a shared goal of being ready and available when people need us the most.
And now, back to the show. In addition to picking cougar fur specimens, Marla assisted with stitching Marcia up. It was an overwhelming task that took many hours to complete.
I have no idea how many sutures there were. I think maybe I had counted at the time, but I couldn't tell you. I mean, there was some suturing, there was some stapling. He did a lot of stapling on the top of her head. So multiple staples to the top, and then he sutured her face like for hours. There was packs and packs of sutures. So to put it in perspective for someone who, has a decent cut on their arm, say you cut yourself, just camping or whatever it might be, the physicians never use a full pack of sutures. And for Marcy, we used multiple packs.
Marcy knows exactly how many and how long it took.
And then for the next 6.5 hours, Marla, Dr. Yao, a medical intern and nurse, stitched me back together and stapled my head back. So it was 1.5 meters of stitches and 144 staples on my face.
We asked Marla Tabler to take us back to that moment.
And so Marcy is, I'm not going to say alert, but like what sort of state is Marcy in as you guys are pulling out the cougar hairs and doing stitching and suturing?
She's so tough. I think she was worried about us, of course, right? She's the sweetest person ever. And so I think she was worried about Josh. And so she was kind of trying to joke and, just, lighten the mood a little bit. So she would, kind of joke about stuff and brush things off like, oh no, I'm okay. Like just trying to be as low maintenance and as possible. So, I think just still in a state of shock, like that this happened. And I don't think she had put it all together. Like, how can you possibly put all of that together? Like, she wasn't aware of how severe her injuries were. She, to just be flown by a helicopter, like it all happened so fast. I think that she just hadn't put it all together yet.
Afterward, friends and family and the people of STARS rallied around Marcy and Josh, ensuring meals were taken care of, shifts were covered, and that each of them felt supported, wrapped in a hug.
Marcy remained in hospital for several days, recovering from the trauma, but also battling an infection that had set in. A predictable occurrence given the nature of the attack. Marcy's nurse on the helicopter, Kelly Holt, visited her in hospital during that time.
But yeah, so I never got to see her until the next day, which was a major shock. I was very shocked to see her. She was so swollen. Like, I was not expecting to see the amount of swelling that she had in her face, and they had shaved her hair off, and it was, I wasn't prepared for that at all. And I think that's, as a nurse, as a primary care nurse, in the ER or in the air, as a flight nurse, we don't see that unless it's a family member or a loved one that you follow up, but you don't, you pick them up, you take them to the hospital, or you receive them from the EMS crew of the hospital, and you suture them up and you send them to the ICU, or you send them out to another care center, or you send them to the unit or to the operating room, and you don't see them after that.
Hey Lyle, let's take a minute to expand on that a bit. We don't always hear how a patient does after we transfer care at a hospital, but there are some patients who want to meet the STARS crew members who cared for them.
Yeah, and that's why we have the very important patient program, or VIP program, at STARS. It's an opportunity for patients to visit the STARS base and perhaps even reunite with the crew members who were part of their mission. It's something that oftentimes really helps a patient find closure, and it's really rewarding for our crew members as well.
Yeah, and some patients reach out very soon after their mission, and for others it takes many years. So if that's you, if you're a former STARS patient who wants that experience, simply email us at vip@stars.ca.
That's right, you can get that ball rolling with that email. But for now, let's get back to Marcy's story.
As excited as Kelly was to see Marcy on the road to recovery and hospital, so was Jenny Burgess. You'll recall that Jenny and Marcy not only worked together, they knew each other as kids. The last time Jenny saw Marcy, she was being whisked to a hospital in dire condition not long after Jenny helped to land the STARS helicopter on a mountaintop.
That night, she debriefed with her colleagues who had all been through such a terrifying ordeal and tried to get some rest. But as soon as she could see her friend, she did.
Yeah. So, like, Marcy's family knows me too, and that's like I've known them since I was 14. So they were really good at letting us know that she was okay. They let us know as soon as they could. I think we saw her within a day of getting back to Grand Prairie. She didn't look like Marcy. She didn't have a lot of hair, and they cut her hair off and did a lot of stitching. And she's pretty swollen, but it was a relief just to talk to her and know that she was, she's in a good spot. They could take care of her, and and she was in starting her healing journey, right? Not, when she flew away, we didn't know if she was going to make it or not, right? She was bad. She was in really bad shape, and we didn't know if she was going to make it or not. And so we were grateful that they kept us updated, knowing that she was okay. But I mean, you don't, until you see them, until you get to see her, then it's just, I don't know, it's just heartwarming to look at her and know that she's starting that healing journey, right? Instead of, I could cry. I think both of us may have, but yeah, and it was a long and hard journey for Marcy, and it still is a bit. So it's really nice that you could see her. It was just relief to see her too, and I know that most of our group did get to see her in person, and I know that the group that was out there, we did all get to see her at some point in person, and I know that I think everyone felt that once they saw her, whether it was 2 days away or a month away or however when they could get back, because not everyone lived in Grand Prairie. We were spread out everywhere. There was just that relief that you saw, and Marcy being Marcy was so thankful, but we wouldn't have done anything different.
Just a few weeks after the attack, Marcy went back to work, back to life.
I feel I have a good life. With the care I got from STARS, the scarring, they were able to get me to the hospital and stitch me up to prevent really bad scarring. The quicker I could get there, the less scars I would have in the end. I'm able to go out, enjoy the outdoors. We do a lot of camping together as a family, and STARS helped me have a great life again.
Marla Tabler, the STARS flight nurse and friend we heard from earlier, agreed that STARS made all the difference for Marcy. Sometimes it's the expertise of the crew, sometimes it's the ability of the helicopter to reach remote areas, and usually it's a combination of both.
It's so critical. I mean, having the helicopter available, and ironically, I was flying in Grand Prairie a couple months ago, and I did a call in that almost exact same area for a different kind of injury, but they said at the time, they waited for us because we were already on another call, and they said, no, we're waiting for the helicopter. It would have been a 6-hour ground transport for that patient, and I'm sure Marcy's would have been similar. And those roads out there are terrible. They're obviously just kind of, logging roads. There's no gravel. So once it starts raining, they just become absolutely slick and treacherous. So difficult to navigate for a ground ambulance. And not only that, like just trying to get anywhere near them, like it takes so long. And then coming out on those roads, you're bumping along for hours and hours and hours. And it depends on what kind of crew is responding to you. So if it's a BLS crew, which Grand Prairie has a lot of, to get that far out, I'm sure they would have tried to send an ALS crew, but if it's BLS, they don't have the opportunity to even really give her a lot for analgesic. So for pain control, she would have just been bumped around for hours. with very minimal pain control, if any, to try and get her back to Grand Prairie. It would have been absolutely miserable. And when you do have a cougar bite like that, getting antibiotics into someone quickly is important. You can get really septic from any types of bacteria like that, especially an animal bite. Their mouths are obviously very dirty, very bacteria ridden. So, from just a simple dog bite or a cat bite on your arm or leg, for example, if you were just at home and, attacked by something with just one simple bite, you get antibiotics, you get your tetanus updated. And in Marcy's case, she had innumerable bites. I have no idea how many were there. So the amount of bacteria introduced into her that's scary. She had a significant fever over the next couple of days. She required a bunch of different types of antibiotics to make sure they covered all the bacteria that a cat is going to introduce into your body. So had STARS not been there and not been available, it just would have been the most miserable night. The potential for worsening infection would have been there because we got antibiotics into her within the first 20 minutes of her being at the hospital.
Marcy and Josh are now married with children. Josh is still a pilot for STARS, and the couple's moved to Calgary. They are both thankful for STARS and the care Marcy received that day.
Yeah, it's a huge thanks to STARS, but it's not just the people who work at STARS, it's everybody else in the province that is donors to STARS. Because without all of them, I could have been lying in that cut block easily for 8 more hours, hoping that I'd be able to get out. And a lot can change. Minutes and seconds matter when you require serious first aid. So, thanks to everyone at STARS, but thanks to everybody in the province that keeps stars in the sky. Without them, I might not be here in as good a shape.
On the next Mission Ready.
I think the only thing that I have trauma from for this mission was thinking about Marcy saying that she could hear the cougar biting her skull. And I think that traumatized me the most. And to think about how she deals with that and how she deals with all her triggers and sounds and smells. And I think that's probably the hardest for me.
Mission Ready, presented by WBM Technologies, is researched and produced entirely in-house by me, Deborah Tetley.
And me, Lyle Aspinall. We're part of the STARS communications team. Mission Ready contains original theme music by Kaya Gamble, the daughter of one of our longtime former pilots. Find her at kayagamble.com. That's Kaiya Gamble.com.
Subscribe to Mission Ready wherever you found it so you don't miss an episode, and rate and review wherever possible. Be sure to tell others about it too. And if they don't know how to access a podcast, please show them how, or just point them to stars.ca/podcast, where they will find several ways to listen. We've also created a bonus episode of Mission Ready that tells the story of how STARS began. We'll release it at the end of this season.
Our ability to provide world-class patient care since 1985 is only possible because you make it happen. As a charity, we rely on support from the public so we can be there for the next patient who needs us. To donate and to join our fight for life, please visit stars.ca. Until next time, thanks for listening.